From the heart of the Space City to the heart of Gen Z, welcome to Next Gen Conversation. Not Dad's Talk Radio. Ethan talks to you about the issues and events that matter to our generation. This is the Next Gen Report with Ethan Buchanan.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Next Gen Report. Welcome to our new affiliates in Dallas and San Antonio. I believe it's KFXR in Dallas, Talk Radio 1190, and News Radio 1200 WOAI in San Antonio. San Antonio, y'all are hearing the recording of the live broadcast because as much as I love being on the radio, God help me if I'm going to stay up till 11 o'clock to do it. So, WII, thank you very much for joining us. Please enjoy this recording of the Next Gen Report. And to my KFXR friends up in Dallas, you get the live show. You get the live broadcast. You get exactly the same thing that the folks here in Houston on AM 950 KPRC get. Real quick, to my new listeners, my new friends in Dallas and San Antonio, check me out on Instagram, X, or not Twitter, it's X now, and TikTok, wherever you hang out on social media, @_ Ethan Buchanan on TikTok and X. It's the .Ethan Buchanan on Instagram. I'd love to get to know you guys. I'd love to interact with you guys. I love your cities. I'm a Houstonian. I know Houston, San Antonio, and Dallas are all supposed to have big beef. We're not supposed to like each other. I love both those cities. Not as much as I love Houston. Granted, I love Houston more, but I love San Antonio and Dallas a lot. I have a lot of great connections there. So it's a pleasure to be on the air with y'all. Thank you very much for joining me. We got a lot to talk about today. For starters, we got a bunch more Epstein files, like 3 million pages. So this article from the BBC is kind of a quick summary. It's from the BBC, so, grain of salt everything because it's the BBC. But millions of new files relating to the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein have been released by the U.S. Department of Justice. The largest number of documents shared by the government since a law mandated their release last year, 3 million pages, 180,000 images, and 2,000 videos were posted publicly on Friday. So, at this juncture, I want to just remind everybody, being named in these files, your name coming up, does not automatically mean you're a pedophile, all right? That's something we need to understand and come to terms with. Epstein knew a lot of people. He associated with a lot of people. He talked to a lot of people. So just because you have an email that says, yes, I, Jeffrey Epstein, had a conversation with so-and-so, that doesn't automatically mean that so-and-so needs to go to jail, all right? Let's take some time to peruse these files, see what they actually say, all right? Now, there is, I think, a lot of maybe justified interest in Bill Gates. I think it's pretty undeniable now that he was involved in something that's sexually perverted with Jeffrey Epstein, even if it's as simple as, procurement of Russian hookers, which it seems like that's what he was involved in, if not more. Allegedly, I don't know. That's what I'm seeing online. I'm not saying this is fact. Please don't sue me, Bill Gates. I'm just saying this is what we've seen, all right? Apparently, he got some sort of STD from some sort of Russian hooker and was emailing Jeffrey Epstein saying, hey man, you got to get me some sort of anti-STD medication that I can slip to my wife so she doesn't get the STD that I got and thereby finds out that I've been cheating on her with Russian hookers. I don't know. All right, it's weird, but that's what I've seen. Today's release marks the end of a very comprehensive document identification and review process to ensure transparency to the American people and compliance with that aforementioned law. I believe they're technically late on this. They were supposed to release it 30 days after the law was signed by President Trump, but they ended up releasing it like 60 days. They kind of released some initial documents and then this big dump of like 3 million different pages. So anyway, there's that. That's obviously big news. It's obviously important, but let's take some time to peruse these documents carefully. Let's make sure that we're not reading anything into these documents. We need to be pulling information out, not putting information in. One thing that I've seen is, Zorhan Mamdani's mom apparently attended a party that Bill Clinton was at, and I believe the party was at some venue that Jeffrey Epstein either owned or was connected to in some way. And there were emails in here that alluded to that and Zorhan Mamdani's mother being at this party. That does not automatically mean that Zorhan Mamdani's mother did anything illegal or anything like that. It just means she knew powerful people in New York, right? Because that's who Epstein was. He was a powerful guy in New York. He knew other powerful guys in New York. He communicated and talked to them, all right? So let's figure out exactly who actually did something wrong and then go after those people. Let's not diminish what we're doing by just throwing out random allegations. The files include details about Jeffrey Epstein's time in prison, including a psychological report and his death while incarcerated, along with investigative records on Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's associate who was convicted of helping him. They also include emails between Jeffrey Epstein and high-profile figures. Many of the emails and documents go back more than a decade, showcasing Epstein's relationships amid his legal troubles. He was convicted in 2008 in Florida for soliciting sex from a 14-year-old girl. After coming to a controversial plea agreement with prosecutors, he died in August of 2019. A lot of stuff in here about Prince Andrew, I believe, is the one that was being creepy. I believe it was Prince Andrew. He's been like, oh yeah, there's the picture. Prince Andrew. This is some girl that he was kneeling on all fours. I don't know if this is like a minor. If this is a child, this is a horrible picture for Prince Andrew. I'm not sure. Virgin Group has clarified that harem reference to 3 adults members. Oh, this is with Richard Branson is what this is talking about. Where's the stuff about Prince Andrew? A person named the Duke, believed to be Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, discussing having dinner at Buckingham Palace where there was lots of privacy, quote unquote. Yeah, that's a little suspicious. Another message from Epstein included an offer to introduce the Duke to a 26-year-old Russian woman that may be the person in this picture. Again, we don't know. Listen, this is going to take a lot of investigating, right? Once these documents are out into the public, it's going to take kind of we the people being diligent internet sleuths. And this is where I think AI can be really helpful. This is 3 million pages worth of documents to dig through. That's not going to be easy. That's not going to be quick. But when you have something like, advanced AI models that can very quickly read all of these pages and kind of summarize them, give you the highlights, and then point you back to the original source documents so you can go back and verify everything, that I think is going to be very good and helpful. So anyway, there's that. We got a lot more to talk about. Austin is being crazy again. Lots of weird stuff in the education industry. It's going to be a great show. We'll be right back after these ads. Alrighty, where are my Aggies at? Big stuff happening at Texas A&M. This is the Next Gen Report, by the way, if you're just now tuning in. If you missed the first segment, this is the first time you're hearing me on the air in San Antonio or Dallas. Welcome. This is the Next Gen Report. I am Ethan Buchanan. Follow me on X @_Ethan Buchanan. Let's talk about some of the fun stuff that we're seeing at Texas A&M. Good stuff. Good stuff for sure. Texas A&M ends women's and gender studies program. So basically, if you're unfamiliar with the women and gender studies program, I believe these are equivalent to master's degrees in the brewing field, the coffee field. Baristas often have these degrees in these fields. That's a joke. These are funny jokes that I just said. Yeah, I mean, we all know what gender studies is. It's woke nonsense. That's what it is. There's no reason for it to be at a college. You don't need a big women's studies program. You just don't need it, right? If you're taking a history course and you want to learn about notable women's history, it should be in the history course already. There's this argument that, we need to have these big courses about women and women's history and women's studies and la-di-da-di-da. And it all ends up just becoming a capsule for woke gender ideology, for kind of extremist feminism. That is a thing. There is extremist feminism out there. And now these are being pared back and removed because, frankly, these degrees and these classes are useless. They are. Texas A&M University is eliminating its women's and gender studies program as part of a review of university courses. The move follows repeated criticism of the university for allowing left-wing course content into the traditionally conservative institution. And that is what A&M is. I mean, everybody knows this. We've all heard the jokes about how UT is the woke school and A&M is where all the good old country boys go. And country gals out there. University officials say they examined roughly 5,400 course syllabi to ensure compliance with Texas A&M system policies 0801 and 1201, which govern academic freedom, responsibility, and course content standards. In November, the Texas A&M Board of Regents amended the policy to prohibit courses from advocating race or gender ideology. And there it is. That's why this got removed. And that's what these courses always are at every university. They end up just being a shell in which is crammed a bunch of woke nonsense. It's never useful information. So why bother teaching it? All you're doing is setting these kids up to be a barista. And you're convincing them that, oh, you'll be able to go into women's studies as a career field. No, you won't. That doesn't exist. There is no women's studies career field. There is no gender studies career field. It doesn't exist. It's just woke indoctrination. So, frankly, these students should be grateful that they're no longer going to be duped. They're not. They had a big protest about it. And I say big in quotes. Check this out. This is audio from the protest. The Houston Chronicle took the time to go down there and do a piece about this protest. Check this out.
Freedom to learn, freedom to grow. It's got to go. Strike, strike, strike.
More than 300 people rallied Thursday evening at Texas A&M University in College Station, saying a new ban on teaching about race and gender is censoring classroom instructions and threatening academic freedom.
Gender ideologies should not be taught in a classroom, but instead should be a reason for people to be fired. What's happening here at Texas A&M in Aggieland is not isolated. This is happening all across the state and the nation. We can make a decision today that you walk away from this demonstration and that this just becomes another moment in your lives, in your day. But you could also make a decision that this instead becomes a collective movement, a movement that we are demanding a seat at the table at the Board of Regents.
We are demanding a seat at the table at the Board of Regents. They have got to listen to us. We want to learn about gender ideology, then go to a woke school. Nothing is making you go to Texas A&M. There are private institutions that will let you pay as much money as you want to learn about this woke nonsense. Texas A&M is a public university. It's paid for by my tax dollars here in the state of Texas. I don't want to fund this garbage. I don't want to fund it. I don't want to pay for it. This is my money that's going into this school. I never even attended there, and I'm still paying for this garbage. We're demanding a seat at the table. Keep demanding, buddy, because you're not getting one. Houston Chronicle tried to make a big deal out of this. Look at how great this is. 300 people rallied at Texas A&M University. That is roughly, I did the math, 0.3% of the Texas A&M student body. Nobody cares about this at A&M because at the end of the day, it is a conservative school. The student body there is primarily conservative. The alumni body is primarily conservative. Most people aren't on board with that. The only reason I bring it up now really is because this is kind of part of a growing movement in higher education to turn the student body into a political force. Which, I mean, higher education, fine. You're an adult. If you want to not spend your time in class and studying and taking tests and doing what you went to college to do, that's fine with me. But when you start getting down to the high school level and you're taking away class time and study time to go do protests, that's where I have a problem. Because this is a high school. Again, I'm paying for it. These are public high schools. But it's still happening. They're taking kids out of classroom, or kids are leaving classroom, allegedly of their own volition, I don't believe that, to go participate in protests. Hundreds of Texas public school students walk out to protest ICE killings. This is via the Texas Tribune. Hundreds of Texas public school students walked out of classes on Friday as part of a national movement. There it is. So this isn't just some natural thing that these kids did. These aren't some super politically active 14, 15, 16-year-olds, 17, 18, that decided to go get involved in politics and take a stand. This is organized nationally. And our high schools in Austin, Waco, San Antonio were all involved in this. The students weren't organizing this. They weren't. I mean, we'll see what the investigations show because, believe it or not, Greg Abbott has said he's actually going to investigate why this is happening. Because, again, these kids should be learning. Instead, they're being indoctrinated. That's what I have a problem with. If this was just at A&M where you had 300 students go do a big protest, go for it. Nobody cares. But this is happening at Austin ISD. Here's the video of the Austin ISD students that were going out and protesting instead of being in class.
No fear, no hate, no ICE in our state. No fear, no hate, no ICE in our state. No fear, no hate, no ICE in our state. Fear, no hate, no ICE in our state.
Again, these are like high school aged kids. Why? Why are they not in class? Explain that to me. Turns out nobody knows. Austin ISD put out a statement that basically said, hey, they just walked out. We can't do anything about it. Sorry, parents. That's preposterous. Preposterous. This is the result of indoctrination, clearly. Clearly. No student is going out there and saying, oh, yeah, we need to be involved in this national protest. I mean, some are. The radical leftists are. But again, that's because they're being indoctrinated by these teachers. Or maybe by their parents, but by these teachers, primarily. And if it's by the parents, then the teachers should be sitting there saying, hey, you can do whatever you want once we dismiss and you're picked up by your parents. But right now, we're here to learn. So sit down. We're doing class time right now. I mean, this is insane. It's every level of education. They're just turning students into woke foot soldiers. You should have a problem with that. You should. Because again, it's going to happen to your kid at some point. It will. They're not going to let your kid go and just not even try to indoctrinate your child. If your kid is in the public school right now, they're going to bump into this at some point. I don't care how red you think your state is or how conservative you think your school board is. Eventually, these woke teachers that attended these woke colleges are going to try to turn your children into the same woke foot soldiers that they are. So, I mean, if you can avoid it, I would say don't even go to college because most career paths, it's not really all that necessary. And if your kid is in the public school system, look at a private school if you can afford it. All right, so I want to real quick stay on this school protest issue because, again, something that Brian Phillips on Twitter pointed out, kids across 14 campuses don't organically decide to walk out and then get escorted by campus cops to the Capitol. Because that's what happened across Austin ISD. Here's where he said that. Credit to him for this tweet. 14 different schools across Austin ISD, all the students walked out and were escorted by campus police all the way to the state capitol in Austin. That's not organic, all right? The left will try to tell you these kids just want to speak their mind. That's not what happened. Resources were diverted either by bad actors within the school or officials at the school who knew this was going on and coordinated it. I don't know. But this was not a natural organic protest. This was organized and coordinated and done, and that needs to be investigated because, one, it's dangerous. You had kids blocking the street and crossing the street, again, all while they're supposed to be in class. And God only knows what could have happened to these kids. This is an uncontrolled environment. It is very easy to lose a student. I had mentioned Austin ISD put out a statement. I think in all fairness to them, we'll read it. Dear Austin ISD community, today students at 14 campuses participated in student-led bullcrap protests related to immigration enforcement activities. While many of our students participated in walkout demonstrations on campus, Some students left our schools and gathered at the Texas Capitol. It's important to note that this event was not sponsored or endorsed by Austin ISD. So officially, they weren't involved. Officially, quote unquote. It's always our desire to have our students in our classrooms during instructional hours. During the school day, our students are our responsibility, and we're committed to the safety of our students in our community. Well, you're clearly not committed enough, regardless if they are on our campus. This is why our administration and Austin ISD Police remain with our students during protest activities during school hours. So that's their excuse. We had to keep track of the students, so we just followed them. That's a problem in and of itself. You have so little control of your student body that they can just get up and walk out, and you've got nothing you can do about it except follow them to the state capitol. That's not good. Who's running these schools? How are the students in such complete control of the schools? It's ridiculous. Thankfully, Greg Abbott at least says he's looking into it. He put this tweet out. I've directed the education commissioner to investigate this. AISD gets taxpayer dollars to teach the subjects required by the state, not to help students skip school to protest. Our schools are for educating children, not political indoctrination. So we'll see what comes of this. I am not super, confident that there will be any worthwhile results, but the state is at least looking into it officially, so that's good. Let's look at somewhere where we did at least have some great progress made on an issue that's very near and dear to my heart. We all remember on the 18th, that church that was stormed by a bunch of anti-ICE protesters, and some of the organizers were arrested. The big one that everybody wanted to see get in trouble for this was Don Lemon, former CNN anchor, now independent journalist, quote unquote. Don Lemon. He's famous for being a black homosexual, and nothing wrong with being black. I have religious issues with you just openly practicing homosexual. I call you to repentance. My brother in Christ, repent, turn away from that. But there's nothing wrong with being black and homosexual on a legal level. I have no problem with that. But that's what he's known for. That's why he's famous. And he'll say this to you. He will go out and say, oh, I'm a big deal because I'm a black homosexual. That's why he said, I'm getting all this attention for this protest. I'm just one person that was there. I'm getting in trouble for it because I'm a black homosexual. No, you're getting in trouble for it because it was illegal. So thankfully, I'll give Pam Bondi some credit here. She actually arrested him for what he did, which was storm a church and yell at churchgoers, which, by the way, you're not allowed to do. So I've been very critical of Pam Bondi on this show. I'm sure I will continue to be critical of Pam Bondi on this show, but in this situation, I've got to give her an attaboy. So here's where we're at. She posted this on January 30th. So that was, I believe, Friday. At my direction, early this morning, federal agents arrested Don Lemon, Tareen Jean Cruz, Georgia Fort, and Jamal Lyndall Lundy in connection with the coordinated attack on City's Church in St. Paul, Minnesota. More details to come soon. So, again, I was very much under the impression that Pam Bondi was all bark and no bite, because so far she's been primarily bark and not a whole lot of bite, but she bit here. So, credit where it's due. As much as I don't like Pam Bondi, I think she needs to be fired and replaced with a more effective, more go-get-em attorney general, but I'll give her credit from this one. Here's the statement from Don Lemon's lawyer saying, oh, he's just a journalist. This is an attack on free speech. All he was doing was documenting this attack on this church. And again, if you don't have the details on this, go back and listen to the show from, I think, a week and a half ago, where we talked about it in detail. I played you a lot of the videos of the actual quote-unquote protest. It's not a protest. You invaded a church service, interrupted it, and scared everybody, so they fled the church. So here's the statement from Abe Lowe, Don Lemon's attorney. Don Lemon was taken into custody by federal agents last night in Los Angeles when he was covering the Grammy Awards. Don has been a journalist for 30 years, and his constitutionally protected work in Minneapolis was no different than what he had always done. So again, this has been the consistent argument from Don Lemon is, I just followed them into this church. I'm just a journalist. I was just covering protests, and I just followed these people into this church. I didn't know what they were doing. I'm just documenting them. It's not what happened. Don Lemon knew. He knew about this protest. He knew what was going to happen. And the video from the event makes that abundantly clear. The video that he himself recorded at this event makes it obviously clear that he knew what was going to go on. Watch this with me. Listen to what he says. This is just before the protest starts. This is him doing his big intro. Because again, he was directly embedded with these folks. Remember, there's posts circulating to this day on Twitter that are like, thank you, Don Lemon, for helping us organize this and being involved. And here's this video. It's impossible to watch this and think he didn't know exactly what was going to go on in that church, which was obviously illegal. Take a listen to this.
Into Minneapolis a little bit ago and did some reconnaissance on the ground, speaking to an organization there that's gearing up for resistance and protest. I've been pleasantly surprised to see the community coming together. Diverse community. If you see this, when we first pulled up, we're like, wait a minute, which operation are we at? And as it turns out, because we're like, well, this is kind of MAGA coded, right? Saw the American flag or whatever, but these are resistance protesters. They're planning an operation that we're going to follow them on.
They're planning an operation that we're going to follow. So he knows there's an operation going on. It's not just, oh, they're having a protest. He says it. They're planning an operation. Not just they're planning to protest. They're planning to stand outside somewhere and protest, which is completely legal. You're allowed to do that. You can post up on any sidewalk you want and protest for whatever you want. That's not the language you use when you're just planning we're planning an operation? Come on, dude. But it gets worse.
I can't tell you exactly what they're doing, but
I can't tell you exactly what they're doing. So he knows. He knows exactly what they're doing. He didn't say, I can't tell you exactly what they're doing because I don't know. He says, I can't listen.
called Operation Pull Up, and it's Takima Armstrong, and she has been.
So he knows who's planning it. He knows the name of the operation. And he has no idea what's going on, though. He just knows exactly where it is, exactly who's organizing it, what the name is, and he knows they're planning an operation. But he has no details other than that. Bullcrap, dude.
Been doing this since George Floyd, Dante Wright, and others, where they surprise people, catch them off guard, and hold them to account. And so that's what we're doing here. And then
they surprise people, catch them off guard, and hold them to account. Not just protest. He knew. He knew what they were doing. Obviously, he is admitting it right there on camera. This is the most cut and dry case I have ever seen in my entire life. It is impossible to think that this guy didn't know exactly what was going to go on. And what was going to go on was the storming of a church and the yelling of churchgoers.
And we're after we do this operation, you'll see it live. And these operations are surprise operations. Again, I can't tell you where they're going.
He obviously knew exactly what was going on. I can't tell you where we're going, but we know who this is. We know who the operation is. We know what we're doing. We know where we're going. He was obviously embedded in this. Obviously. And as if that's not enough evidence for you, here he is kissing Takima Armstrong on the cheek before going in to cover this protest. So he's obviously in real good with the protest organizer. They obviously know each other well. I've covered protests in my time as a reporter at KPRC Radio, our sister station in Houston. I've covered the No Kings protest. I covered the recent ICE protest in Houston a couple of weeks ago. At no point did I kiss the organizers of those protests on the cheek. I hung out in the back, and I had no idea what was going on. And I just watched and filmed. I didn't know any of the protesters. I didn't say I'm going to the operation. I said I'm going to go to the protest and stand in the back with a camera. And I'm not going to kiss any of the organizers on the cheek because I'm not involved. He was involved in this. Obviously. And you got to be a special type of stupid to think he wasn't. We'll be back in just a minute. All right, the Next Gen Report, wherever you get podcasts. If you're one of my San Antonio or Dallas listeners listening to me for the first time, check me out there. Again, there's 1 hour of radio here, so there's a lot that we don't get to. There's a lot of things that I want to talk about every single week that I just can't fit in. Maybe stuff that, is not playable on air, audio clips from protests and stuff where, people are cussing out of their minds. And so I can't air that because of FCC regulations, but I can air some of that on the podcast because there are no FCC regulations. So if you want more of the show, that's where you get it. The Next Gen Report, wherever you get podcasts. And of course, social media at _Ethan Buchanan on X. Again, the video podcast, all of this is being recorded on video right now. So a lot of these visual elements you can see. You can find that, all over the place, wherever basically. Follow me on X, and then you can spread out from there to all my other content. But let's continue a little bit on Don Lemon. I want to give Pam Bondi some more credit here because, again, I can't stress this enough. I don't like her. I don't think she's a good attorney general. I don't think she should be there. I think Matt Gaetz would have been better. But she did do this one good thing, and so I'm going to give her credit for it because I'm fair. If nothing else, let it never be said that Ethan Buchanan did not give Pam Bondi her credit when she did rightfully deserve it. So that's what we're going to do here. Here's the strongly worded letter that she put out after Don Lemon did his big quote-unquote protest. It wasn't a protest, again. It was an attack on this church. It wasn't a violent attack, thank God, but it was an attack nonetheless. And here she is calling it out right after Don Lemon was arrested on Friday morning, or I guess it would have been Thursday evening, and Friday morning is when the news broke. So here it is. Here's the clip. Take it away, Pam Bondi.
Make no mistake, under President Trump's leadership and this administration, you have the right to worship freely and safely. And if I haven't been clear already, if you violate that sacred right, we are coming after you.
And again, it was a violation of their rights. That's what it was. If you saw the video, again, go back and listen to the podcast or go watch it from that day. It was a violation of their rights. They have a right to worship, right? And their right to worship was impeded via the use of what they claim is the First Amendment. Now, anyone will tell you your rights do not extend to the violation of another person's rights. Like you can't use a gun to kill someone, even though you have a right to keep and bear arms, because you're eliminating that person's right to life. You can't use your rights to violate someone else's rights. And that's exactly what Don Lemon did. On top of that, I'm not a lawyer, so this is just my thoughts on the subject, but I kind of feel like there might be a case to be made here for actual, honest-to-God terrorism. And I'm not just making stuff up. I'm not just trying to be, sensational and like, oh, he's a terrorist, la-di-da-di-da. No, I actually think that if you're a lawyer, if you're a prosecutor, you might be able to take certain pieces of this footage that Don Lemon himself recorded and make a case for terrorism. Check this out. Listen very carefully to what Don Lemon says here as he takes videos of people scampering away from this protest. These were churchgoers. They're basically escaping this protest that took over their church service. Take a listen to what he says here. The wording is very important here.
Watch this guy here. Look, he's hugging his kid. I imagine it's uncomfortable and traumatic for the people here. But again, careful, it's very slippery right here. Yeah. It's uncomfortable and traumatic for the people here, but that's what really, careful, please, really slippery. Not kidding. That's what protesting is about. And so
it's uncomfortable and traumatic, but that's what protesting is about. Now, again, he said it himself. These kids are scared as they're leaving. They are traumatized, which I'm sure they are. If you're just going to church and next thing you know, a bunch of people are yelling at you about ICE and you're 10 years old and you don't know what's going on, that's going to be traumatic. And then you get rushed out and you're scared. You don't know what's going on. He's right. That is traumatic. And that's what protesting is all about. No, it's not. Again, protesting would just be you're standing on the sidewalk with a sign saying, hey, ICE is, involved with this church. That would be protesting. And that would be fine. Because as you're walking by, you say, Daddy, what are those people over there yelling about? What are those signs? Like, oh, they're just protesting. Go to church. Let's worship. But that's not what happened. They came in and they got yelled at. They got traumatized. And Don Lemon seems to be making the case that that was the goal. That's what protesting is all about. And in the first or third segment, we played those clips of him saying, yeah, I'm involved in this. We're going to go do this protest. We're excited. So clearly he knew this was going to go on. Clearly there was a goal to traumatize these people. So is that kind of terrorism? I think maybe. Let's look at the actual definition of terrorism. The unlawful use of violence and intimidation, especially against civilians, in the pursuit of political aims. All of that is what's going on here. What is the political aim? The political aim is get ICE out of Minneapolis, right? That's a political goal. Did they use violence and intimidation? Definitely intimidation. Definitely. I'd be pretty intimidated if I was sitting in church and someone just goes, "Do you support ICE?" That's intimidating. It is. Clearly, that's what they meant to do. Don Lemon just said it. Oh, yeah, they're traumatized, but that's what protesting is all about, traumatizing people. No, it's not. That's what terrorism is all about. Protesting is just saying, hey, this is what I think. That's protesting. Terrorism is intimidating people. So, I mean, hey, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. This is just me kind of guesstimating. I'm using my kind of civilian everyday knowledge. This is just me as a layman saying, hey, this is what this looks like to me. So maybe I'm completely crazy, but I don't think so. When you look at the definition of terrorism and what Don Lemon said, it seems like it's a pretty easy case to make. All right, moving on from that, I want to talk about this case out of San Antonio. For my San Antonio listeners, this is for you. This goes out to you. This is a Behar County court judge indicted and accused of having an attorney handcuffed and kept in a jury box. This is insane. Judge Rosie Speedlin Gonzalez. Now, I don't want to be racist. And I don't think this is racist. But somewhere in there, there is a joke about how this judge is named Speedlin Gonzalez. And of course, we all know the beloved character Speedy Gonzalez, the mouse from Looney Tunes of some sort of Latin origin. I don't know what exactly that joke is. I'm not a comedian, but somewhere out there, somebody funnier than me, find that joke and bring it to me. I want it. But anyway, here's the details. Behar County Court at Law Judge Rosie Speedlin Gonzalez was indicted Thursday, more than a year after investigators said she had an attorney handcuffed during a dispute in her courtroom. Speedlin Gonzalez has been charged with unlawful restraint by a judicial officer, a felony, and a misdemeanor official oppression. That's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, it's ridiculous. But when you dig into who this judge is, it's actually not that surprising. She made the headlines previously because somebody told her to take the pride flag out of her courtroom and she got butthurt about it. Take a listen.
Judge Rosie Speedlin Gonzalez became the first openly gay judge to be elected in Bexar County. Within months of taking the bench, a complaint was made by a local defense attorney to the State Commission on Judicial Conduct about the rainbow pride flag she had in her courtroom.
It came across very much like I was being targeted and discriminated against.
And it was...
You're not being targeted and discriminated against. That gives you an idea of who this lady is. The only flags that should be in any courtroom in the United States are whatever applicable state flag and the United States flag. That's it. That's via KSAT 12. By the way, the article that I read you is also from KSAT 12 in San Antonio. But anyway, it's not oppression. Nobody's oppressing you. Nobody's targeting you. You're a judge. You're not there to tell everybody how gay you are. That's not the point of a judge. The point of a judge is to read the law and follow the law and execute the law. That's what you're supposed to be doing. It doesn't matter how gay you are. That's irrelevant to the court. You need to be a symbol of the law. That's it. Now, if in your own private time you want to be gay and be a gay activist, that's fine. You're free to do that. This is America. But when you're in the courtroom, when you're acting in an official capacity, you need to be just a judge, just a servant of the U.S. law. That's it. And that's not controversial. That goes for any other flags. If you're in Texas, the only flags that should be in your courtroom are the state flag and the U.S. flag. Anyway, that's all I've got. Thank you very much for tuning in and listening. We'll be back, same bat time, same bat place next Sunday.